Have you ever felt totally trapped inside a massive, slow-moving organization? Like everyone around you is working incredibly hard, paddling frantically, but the boat is just, well, it's just spinning in circles.
Oh, yeah. It's a profound type of organizational paralysis because you aren't failing due to a lack of talent or, a bad work ethic.
Right.
You're failing because the actual mechanics of how work gets done, how decisions are made, the whole system is just completely broken.
Totally. And that very specific, very exhausting reality brings us to today's deep dive. We are looking at a stack of sources about a fascinating movement called Project K.
Yeah, Project K.
And this is a group operating right inside one of the most rigid, historically powerful structures in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the Japanese bureaucracy, specifically the Kasumigaseki district.
Right, the absolute nerve center of the government.
Yeah, it's exactly. So our mission today is to explore Project K's vision for structural reform, their blueprint for shifting Japan toward this idea of a strategic nation, and really just the immense, gravity-defying challenge these young bureaucrats face when trying to change a colossal system from within.
It is a massive undertaking, and to really grasp the weight of it, we need some context on what Kasumigaseki actually represents.
Yeah, please.
It isn't just a neighborhood with government offices. For decades, the Kasumigaseki bureaucracy was the impenetrable brain of Japan. I mean, these were the elite architects of the post-war economic miracle.
So they were highly respected.
Oh, incredibly respected. Untouchable drivers of growth. But our sources show that right now, this same institution is facing an unprecedented crisis of public trust.
Like severe public backlash.
Exactly. They are dealing with intense bureaucrat bashing. The public sees a system failing to handle modern crises, and internally, the machine is suffering from a dangerous lack of overarching strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because based on the sources, the best way to understand Kasumigaseki right now is to look at it like a legacy smartphone operating system.
That is a great analogy.
Right. Like 20 or 30 years ago, this OS was an absolute marvel. It built the country's infrastructure, ran the economy flawlessly. But today, it's draining the battery by noon.
Yeah, freezing up constantly.
Exactly. It freezes up every time you open a new window. And the public is furious, yelling at the developers to just build better apps, meaning, they want better individual policies.
But you can't just slap a sleek new app onto an operating system that is fundamentally decaying at the core code level.
It needs a full system update.
It really does.
Yeah.
The system itself requires a ground-up core update. And if we look at the diagnostic data from Project K's analysis, the bugs in this OS are deep. They're systemic.
Because the core issue isn't that they're writing bad policy on purpose, right? It's that the apps are sandboxed. They literally cannot talk to each other.
That is the defining bug. The sources identify 3 critical points of failure here. The first is what they call senraku fuzai, which basically means an absence of strategy.
Meaning they're just reacting to things.
Exactly. The whole bureaucracy has become reactionary. When faced with a modern crisis, say a rapidly aging population or AI, there's no bird's eye view. They just swat at whatever problem is closest.
Just putting out local fires.
Right. And that leads directly to the second massive bug, which is Noabari Arathoi. That translates to vicious turf wars between the different ministries.
And this is where that sandbox analogy really hits home. I mean, how does a bureaucratic turf war actually stall a whole nation's progress?
Well, think about a modern issue like autonomous vehicles or artificial intelligence in healthcare.
Okay.
These are inherently cross-disciplinary challenges. But in Kasumigaseki, budgets and legal authority are strictly tied to specific siloed jurisdictions.
Because they don't want to share.
They refuse to share. The moment a new technology emerges, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Economy might spend years fighting over who gets to regulate it.
Wow. Years.
Yeah. They're fiercely guarding their own legal territory. And by doing that, they effectively freeze the policy process while the rest of the world just moves on.
That is wild. And while the ministries are fighting this Cold War with each other, the individual workers are the ones paying the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the third bug, the human cost.
The human cost is staggering.
The sources describe these working conditions as just brutal. You have bureaucrats staying up until like 3:00 a.m. manually preparing answers for parliamentary sessions.
Totally exhausted.
Right, with absolutely no mental bandwidth left to actually think about the long-term future of the country.
It creates a vicious cycle. The system is inefficient, so it requires extreme manual labor to keep running, which burns out the workers.
Which makes them less capable of designing a better system.
Exactly.
But wait, Tearing down the bureaucracy is exactly what the public is demanding right now. If the system is this siloed, this exhausted, and the public is actively bashing them, why not just tear the whole thing down?
Like a full reset.
Yeah. Isn't that what the public wants with this whole debureaucratization push?
Yeah.
Why try to save it?
What's fascinating here is Project K's core philosophy on exactly that point. They state explicitly that their goal is not goodbye Kasumi Gaseki.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They aren't looking to destroy the institution. They recognize that completely dismantling the administrative state just leaves a dangerous vacuum.
I mean, you still need roads built.
Right. You still need healthcare administered, trade negotiated. Project K argues that the public's anger is misdirected at the outcomes rather than the actual process. They want to make constructive proposals because they genuinely want to do good, high-quality work for the public. They believe fixing the mechanism of policymaking is way more urgent than debating individual policies.
Because if the machine that prints the policy is broken...
every single policy it prints will be flawed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, if tearing it down isn't the answer, someone has to do the grueling work of fixing it from the inside, which naturally leads to the question, who actually makes up Project K?
The demographic makeup of Project K is what makes it so unusual for a traditional Japanese institution.
Right, because it's not the senior leadership.
No, not at all. It was formed in the fall of 2003, and the members are primarily young officials, mostly in their late 20s to 30s.
Wow, so pretty early in their careers.
Exactly. And crucially, they are cross-ministerial.
So they're actively defying the turf wars just by being in the same room.
Yes. You have mid-level staff from the Ministry of Economy sitting right alongside officials from Health, Labor and Welfare, the Environment Ministry, Land and Infrastructure.
That's amazing.
They even brought in private sector allies. Doctors, engineers, architects, people to provide a real external reality check.
It's like instead of trying to overthrow the CEO, they're forming a cross-departmental Avengers team to save the company from itself.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And what I found incredibly compelling in the sources were the specific, deeply personal stories of why these members joined. It brings such a human element to it.
It really does. The individual stories illustrate the systemic rot perfectly. Take Naoto Nishiyama, for example.
Right.
His motivation wasn't some abstract political theory. He looked around his office, saw his colleagues physically crumbling from fatigue, and watched all these resources being wasted on temporary fixes.
Just putting bandages on things.
Exactly. He realized that without a bird's eye view, the bureaucracy was just going to keep putting out local fires until the whole building burned down.
And then you have members looking at the literal physical toll on the workers.
Yes, like Yuka Kitagawa. She has this foundational belief that a civil servant's ultimate mission is to increase human happiness.
Which is a beautiful way to look at government work.
It is.
Right.
But she realized a harsh truth: bureaucrats cannot maximize their performance for the public if they are miserable and unhealthy themselves.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And then Haruno Kano reinforced this from a corporate health management perspective. She saw that ignoring employee well-being wasn't just an HR problem.
Right. It's an existential threat to the organization.
Precisely. The Kasumi Gaseki organization itself is at risk of structural collapse if the people running it are falling apart.
Which fundamentally changes how we think about government work. Like, organizational health isn't just a perk. It's a matter of national security almost.
It really is. And that physical reality even extends to the buildings themselves.
Oh, right. The architect.
Yeah.
Ayako Takino.
Yes, Ayako Takino, one of their private sector members, she analyzed the physical workspace of Kasumi Gaseki and basically concluded that the buildings are actively dragging down efficiency.
Like stacks of paper everywhere, siloed desks.
No collaborative spaces at all. The physical architecture enforces the bureaucratic silos.
The building is literally fighting the workers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, all these seemingly disparate issues, the physical layout, the lack of sleep, the turf wars, they all point to Project K's ultimate goal.
Which is what they call comprehensive reform, right?
Yes, Menteki na Kaikaku. They understand that human capital and organizational health are the bedrock of national policy. You can't fix the economy without fixing the environment that produces the policy.
Okay, so we have this highly motivated cross-departmental team of young officials. They know the system is structurally flawed. They know they need comprehensive reform.
Right.
But complaining about your employer is a time-honored tradition everywhere. How did Project K move from just theorizing about the bugs to actually rewriting the code?
They codified their entire blueprint into a major publication, a book called Kasumiga Seki Ishin.
Which roughly translates to bureaucrats change, Japan changes.
Yeah.
And the use of that word ishin is definitely not an accident.
Oh, not at all.
It directly evokes the Meiji Ishin, the Meiji Restoration, which was the total transformation of Japan from an isolated feudal society into a modern world power in the 19th century.
It is an incredibly loaded, ambitious term to use. They are deliberately signaling that Kusumigaseki doesn't just need a minor tweak, it needs an era-defining transformation.
And the book outlines their vision for shifting Japan from this fractured reactionary state into what they call a strategic nation, Senryaku Koka.
Yes.
But what does a strategic nation actually look like in practice?
Well, a strategic nation operates with a unified, forward-looking plan that explicitly cuts across all those ministry jurisdictions we talked about.
Okay.
So instead of the health ministry trying to solve an aging population in total isolation and the tech ministry working on AI in isolation.
A strategic nation sets one overarching goal.
Exactly. It requires the ministries to pool their data, their budgets, and their authority to achieve that singular national goal.
Which sounds completely logical to anyone outside the government. But inside, that's practically an act of rebellion.
Oh, absolutely. And the process of writing the book was an act of rebellion in itself. The sources note this blueprint was forged through over 50 cross-ministry meetings.
50 internal meetings. I mean, to an outsider, that sounds like a punchline about bureaucracy.
I know, it sounds like a lot of talking, but in the context of Kasumigaseki,
Getting young officials from rival departments into the same room 50 times without their senior directors shutting it down, that is a monumental subversive achievement.
it requires immense trust and personal risk. They were actively breaking the unwritten rules of their highly siloed culture to save the institution.
And that subversive energy really caught the attention of some heavy hitters.
It did. The sources highlight a very powerful endorsement from Uchiro Niwa, a highly respected business leader and former diplomat.
Yeah, he praised them for doing something almost unthinkable, dragging those internal turf wars out into the light of day.
He did, and he explicitly compared Project K to the Shishi.
The Shishi, the ambitious samurai of the Bakumatsu era, who realized the old feudal system was doomed and pushed for modernization.
Right. Niwa says Project K are the modern equivalent of the Shishi, armed with 21st century intellect. He framed their work not just as a dry policy paper, but as a soulful petition against a rigid giant.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's super romantic to compare yourself to a revolutionary samurai.
It is.
But isn't there a massive risk that this is all just an internal echo chamber of young idealists?
Yeah.
Like, writing a book and having 50 covert meetings is great, but Monday morning rolls around and the giant machine just keeps grinding.
That is the ultimate test for any reform movement.
How did they actually bridge the gap to reality?
Well, the sources completely refute the idea that they were just an echo chamber, specifically in the latest information sections on their activities.
Okay, what do they do?
They understood that to force internal change, they needed external leverage. So they became highly active outside the walls of Kasumigaseki.
Like making the invisible visible.
Exactly. They started hosting massive public-private co-creation conferences, and we aren't talking about small book clubs. They organized events pulling together upwards of 1,000 key persons. Corporate leaders, local municipality officials, and national bureaucrats, all in the same room.
1,000 people. You can't really ignore that if you're senior leadership.
No, you can't. And they also organized these highly visible pitch events focused on government productivity. They had ministries and private corporations pitching efficiency solutions.
And they got high-level judges for this, right?
Yes. Crucially, they secured actual digital ministers to judge these events.
That is so smart. They trapped the leadership into participating. Because if a digital minister is judging an efficiency pitch event, they are publicly endorsing the premise that the government needs fixing.
Precisely. They also ran these bridge projects to permanently connect the central government, local municipalities, and private enterprises.
Breaking down the walls.
Yeah, opening the black box of Kasumigaseki, showing the private sector the rusted gears and actively asking for help to fix them.
So what does this all mean? We've spent all this time dissecting the internal politics of the Japanese bureaucracy.
Which might seem a world away.
Right. It might feel completely removed from your daily life. But the truth is, whether you work in a fast-moving tech startup, a legacy corporation, or a local hospital, the exact challenges Project K faces are universal.
The symptoms are identical across almost every complex organization.
departmental silos, where teams hoard data,
Yeah.
rampant employee burnout because the workflow is so broken, a total lack of long-term strategy because middle management is too busy fighting today's fires.
It's the human instinct to protect your own tiny kingdom at the expense of the larger empire.
Exactly. But what Project K demonstrates is the sheer, undeniable power of cross-functional collaboration.
It's a masterclass in internal rebellion.
It really is. It shows the bravery required to reform a broken system from within,
Yeah.
purely out of a sense of duty. Because it's so much easier to just complain and walk away.
Oh, hold on.
It's incredibly difficult to look at the legacy system that employs you and say, we're going to rewrite this code ourselves.
This raises an important question, though. And I think it's one worth mulling over long after this deep dive ends.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we're watching these young bureaucrats fight massive historical inertia. They're risking their own comfort, maybe even their careers, to make their organization function for the people again.
Right.
It leaves you wondering, when you look at your own workplace, your industry, or your community, what is the invisible structural flaw that everyone just accepts as normal?
What's the broken process quietly draining the battery every day?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
more importantly, what would actually happen if you gathered a small cross-departmental group of peers to finally challenge it?